Hello everyone. Welcome to today's episode of BNMIT podcast. I am Mustaqim Khan from Department of Artificial Intelligence and Machine Learning. I am thrilled to discuss a topic that's shaping the future of education. That is student-centric learning to foster 21st century skills. Joining me today is Lieutenant Rohini Trimurthy, a diplomate, founder at XPLearn, and a thoughtful leader with years of experience in pedagogy and training. Welcome to the show, ma'am.
Thank you, Mustaqim. I'm very happy and grateful that I'm here to discuss about the important topic of today.
So let's dive in. So first of all, could you tell exactly what are 21st century skills?
21st century skills are the ones which is going to help students in this fast changing world. They can be divided into three main categories. One is learning skills, which is creativity, problem solving. Literacy skills, where it is technical and media literacy. The other one is life skills, which is to do with productivity and their personal development. According to the World Economic Review, creativity, problem solving, and emotional intelligence is going to be the very important skills by 2030.
It makes sense. I imagine with this all technological changes, education can't just focus on content knowledge anymore.
Exactly. Today's student would want to learn and also have to solve problems of today's real-time world. So they are supposed to be equipped with lot many skills other than what we teach traditionally.
I believe India's National Education Policy, NEP 2020, also focuses on student-centric approaches, right? Could you please share some light on this policy related to this?
Sure, Mustaqim. NEP 2020 is a great initiative by government. They focus mainly on experiential learning, activity-based learning, multidisciplinary learning, as well as how do you have the student-centric learning in the class. They also focus on different 21st century skills, upskilling of students.
So the idea is giving students ownership to choose their education.
Yes, that's the main part of student-centric learning, and NEP brings this very effectively, where they encourage students to have multiple entries and exit schemes where they can choose their own subjects and they can use the NEP policy to learn multidisciplinary concepts.
So the idea is personalized learning and give student ownership to choose their knowledge. That's quite different than the traditional one-fit-all model.
Exactly, Mustaqim. The NEP's goal is to align towards how to think rather than what to think, and encouraging them to become a lifelong learners.
Moving on, when designing student-centric learning, what challenges or attributes do educators consider?
One of the parameters here is a learning style. I'll give you a small activity or a demo. I tell you, make a boat out of this square paper. One of the style I tell is make the square paper into a smaller square and ensure you make a triangle out of it, and then squeeze out the sides so that you get a boat. How does it sound? It sounds like an abstract, right?
Yeah.
So let me do another style where I'll tell you, first ensure this paper is folded and again you make a square. So you get the square.
Yeah.
Now ensure you take one sheet of this side, make it a triangle this way. Yes, you get a triangle. Then ensure you take this out and squeeze the sides. So do you get a boat?
Yeah.
Do you see a visual part of how I taught you doing this?
Yes.
The one I taught you before was an auditory learning style, where students who are very good at instructions following would be able to get the things by auditory learning style. This is a visual style where I show how to do it. The other style is kinesthetic, where I give you a sheet of paper, tell you to do it. So let's see how you better understand by doing it.
Okay, I will give a try.
So you make a square first. And then make a triangle. Make another triangle. So I help you out while doing and giving instructions like a diamond, and then you squeeze out the ends. See, even though I showed you, you were not able to get until unless you did it. And that is called as a kinesthetic skills. Then the other one is a read and write, where people write and read and practice and learn things. So this is one parameter of learning style. There could be other where students would be extrovert, where they would want to go and have a group discussion, do some collaborative activities in a group. That would be great for extroverts. But introverts, you would have to identify and give them an individual task which they would do better. There would be another kind of social emotional learning where students would be very much be careful about how the impact in their society and their emotional level would matter, right? And there is another set of criteria when you have to consider when you're a student, the background of the student. Maybe they are from rural background where they would not know the language or the medium which you're speaking, probably an English. They would be someone who would be a fast learner. They would be very quick in learning something, but there are slow learners also in your class who would require a lot much more precision instructions given to them. So as a teacher, we need to foster all kinds of such students and different learning styles and parameters.
So the class will be filled with different kinds of students. Some might like discussions and some might like to have hands-on.
True. That is what we need to ensure when we, as teachers or facilitators, will be there to help students learn a skill which would be student-centric.
That's interesting. So how can educators practically apply these diverse needs or understand these diverse needs?
The goal mainly is to ensure the students learn. So the facilitators should adopt a differentiated learning styles and the methodologies for fostering every person in the class, not even leaving a single student. So how do we do that is address all the four styles. When you do an instruction, you give it to a student by both auditory as in instructions. You also give visual effects and also let them do something on their own by making them do something activity-based learning. So they will be involved and they do some activity, they learn better. That's one way of doing that. And the other way is you as a facilitator foster two different students' background, understand what background they are from and use different styles and languages to enable everyone to learn better. The other way is you utilize the class in such a way that not even a single person is left behind and use the gamification part. The students love it. When the gamification is there, the elements like rewards, leaderboards, the different platforms, AI tools which gives us like Padlet, quizzes, Kahoot will make students engaged and they would want to learn more and the interest will be intrinsic motivation will be there for them to learn. So utilize all of these factors for them to learn. The urge to learn should be instilled in them by making them understand why the subject matter is very, very important and where will they apply it. Include all the graphs, animations and all the tools which is right now very important as 21st century students. Include them to have the center stage of the class. Rather than being a teacher-led class, let the students be the center stage. Give them a stage to talk, communicate, whatever they fail. One of the other assessment which I follow in my class, I follow this 3-strip methodology. So I hand over a white, a blue and a green strips to you, right? So the question I ask you, is the gig economy going to be the very important part of the next decade? What do you think? If you think yes, put up a green card. And if you think if it is no as an answer, gig economy is not going to take out the world, then put up a blue card. If you don't know the answer, you can always put a white card.
So, it's a white. I have no idea about the gig economy.
Good. This is what we want in our class, that we want the students to not have any fear telling that I don't know. The learning starts from I don't know. If you can't tell that, if you can't realize that you don't know a concept, you can't start learning. So gig economy is something as an example of Ola and Uber. A person signed up for Ola can also sign up for Uber. This is going to be the next decade's employment strategies.
That sounds lot to manage. How can trainers make it manageable without burning out?
The burning out happens when you want to do everything on your own. So involve your colleagues to develop a collaborative efforts of developing activities as well as different ways of engaging a class. If there are faculties taking the same subject, they can collaborate together, come up with the different types of lesson plans which would help them and their colleagues together collaboratively to make the class interactive. This would not take a lot of time. Obviously, this is going to be an effort if you do all alone. So the strategy here is to collaborate as well as ask feedback from the students on how did they like the previous class. This would help you exactly on how you can go about for the next classes to come. What are they liking? What are they not liking? The different activities like role play and other collaborative group events or quizzes or like Jeopardy labs and other AI tools which I've mentioned, if you have to use, it requires you to have some time behind the class hours. So prepare well in advance and then take the feedback. This is going to help the teachers not to burn out. And one more important thing is, if the students see that the teachers are putting a much of effort and they have a growth mindset, these students will also learn the perseverance of a teacher and take them as a role models.
These are fantastic ideas. It's not about just changing the teaching methods, but also creating inclusive learning environment.
True, Mustaqim. And to do this, both teachers and the facilitators are supposed to put in efforts to ensure the students are molded to be ready for the 21st century.
Now, let's talk about benefits. How does student-centric learning help students?
Student-centric learning helps them to get out of the comfort zone. When you're making them do activities, they are the center of the class. They will come out of the fear. They communicate better and the fear of facing an interview goes away. If you're including group discussions, collaborative activities, they know how to work in a team. And this helps them in their interview very well, and this is going to help them for getting a great jobs in the future. Other than that, they understand the concept very well, and they will be able to be motivated to learn much more better and apply in the real time.
That's impressive. It's clear that student-centric learning not just encourages students for academics, but it's also a way of lifelong learning.
True, Mustaqim. Education is the manifestation of the knowledge which is already there in the person. We as facilitators are supposed to show them that this is what they have. And this student-centric learning is going to help them be prepared for the 21st century with all the skills equipped.
Before we wrap up, what's that one key takeaway you would like our listeners to remember?
Sure. Education is not about passing an exam. It's about preparing the students for the skills of life. By embracing student-centric learning, teachers will foster the creativity, problem solving, and communication skills of a student. This is going to be the important part for improving the students' 21st century skills.
That's a powerful message. Thank you for joining us today and sharing these valuable insights.
Thank you very much, Mustakan. It's a great privilege being here as a part of this podcast discussing about this important topic.
And thank you, listeners, for tuning into this episode of BNMIT podcast. I hope this information on student-centric learning gave you insights to build your future goals. Stay tuned for upcoming episode. Stay informed, stay authentic.